Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. DJ here as usual. I want to speak to you today about an international news. Excuse me, I've got a tickle in my throat. It's not making me laugh. The BBC, the British Broadcasting Centre, it's got quite a stable of journalists on its books, and they're consumed by a deep anti-Israeli animus or hatred, and that frequently grades into a naked anti-Semitism. Such reporters as the famous John Simpson, Jeremy Bowen, Lace Doucette, she's Canadian, Barbara Plett, Usher. Now, you may remember, she cried, she wept at the fate of the frail old man Yasser Arafat as he fled to Beirut. And Yolande Nell. And now they're the British over here. And they are against Israel. And they justify in their reports every time Arab terrorists. But so too do the Arabs that the BBC employs to report from inside Gaza. British journalists aren't allowed into Gaza, so they employ Arabs that are in Gaza. And one of them, Sama El Zamanen, she, BBC Arabic journalist, has called for Jews to be burned as Hitler did. Now, I'm quoting from the Telegraph on that, on their report they did on Saturday. Sam Elliott is 33 years of age and has been reporting from Gaza and has been posting a series of statements on social media that condemn Jewish people and has also called for the violence against them. Noting his social media activity in the past 10 years, the Telegraph said he has endorsed and celebrated more than 30 attacks on Israeli Jewish civilians. The social media posts were originally unearthed by the Committee for Accuracy in Middle East Reporting Analysis. And if you put those letters together, Committee, Accuracy, Middle East Reporting Analysis, it spells camera. Just an aside. Now, he has appeared on the Arabic language branch of the UK public broadcaster more than a dozen times since Hamas's terrorist attack on the 7th of October 2023, when they went over the border. On that day, he called the Hamas terrorists who entered Israel resistance fighters. You know, they weren't fighting resistance, they weren't fighting back, they attacked a party, didn't they? An outdoor concert, killing and raping. Elazan had also made similar statements right back in May 2011 on Facebook. The report added, quoting him as saying, "My message to the Zionist Jews, we are going to take our land back. We love death for Allah's sake, and same way you love life. We shall burn you as Hitler did, but this time we won't leave a single one of you left." 11 years later, he wrote on the social media source, "When things go awry for us, shoot a Jew. It fixes everything." Now, this is a reporter the BBC uses to describe what's going on in the Gaza Strip. No bias there. The Telegraph noted the post by the BBC contributor made over 2 years ago on a car ramming into Jerusalem that claimed the lives of two boys aged 8 and 6 and a 20-year-old man, saying the victims will soon go to hell. And the BBC implies him as a reporter telling the truth about what goes on in Gaza. Can you believe it? No, you can't. Neither can I. So these Arab journalists in Gaza were not regular members of the BBC staff, but contributed pieces as freelancers. Does that matter? They were still allowed to have their reports appear on the BBC, still not being banned by the BBC, even though they had extensive records of praising terrorist murderers and mocking their victims, and even calling for Hitler to be emulated for his genocide of the Jews. Elazan wrote of social media that will show, "Burn you as Hitler did." But this time we won't allow a single Jew left. That was again posted in 2010. But he's made similar statements, urging ever since that Jews, not Israelis, but Jews, be killed until there's none left. His posts on social media were surely known to the people in the BBC. In London, surely they vet who they hire. Do they? Including freelancers. Yeah, don't they? Yet the BBC continued to carry his Hitler lovers' reports as the work of a trusted journalist. They called him a trusted journalist. Is there a better example of BBC's tolerance for murderous anti-Semitism? The Telegraph also reported earlier this month that yet another of its journalists made anti-Semitic comments, with writer Ahmed Alagar comparing the Jewish people to devils. And as we know, the Israelis are not human. This is his speech. And as we know, the Israelis are not human beings to begin with. Rather, they're not even beasts. Perhaps they belong to a race for which no description can capture the extent of their lust for sadism, Alagar wrote. For Ahmed Alagar, Israelis are not human, not even beasts. They're a special race of bestial beings. It's not possible to describe the extent of their lust and sadism. But of course, this is just his projection of himself and his people. The only lust and sadism in the Middle East that comes at once to mind is the exhibited by the 6,000 Hamas operatives who crashed into Israel from Gaza on October 7, 2023, and proceeded to engage in rape, torture, mutilation, murder. Girls were raped repeatedly in front of their parents before being killed. Some were raped using various objects, including knives stuck into their vaginas. Babies were burned alive. Some were raped using various objects. Whole families were murdered, were killed. Men had their genitalia cut off and their eyes gouged out. Women had their breasts cut off while alive before being murdered. And much more in this vein. Too girlish for me to recount here. That's the real lust and sadism. The Israelis don't rape. In fact, they've been accused of being racist because they don't rape Arab girls and women, don't torture, don't mutilate, and do their very best. Oh, don't believe me? See the testimonies of the British Colonel Richard Kemp and West Point Professor John Spencer. The Israelis minimise any activity against the civilians. It can be proven. Now, BBC Arabic has launched an investigation into several of its journalists after it came to light that they had supported Hamas, according to a report by the Jewish News. Just over a week after the Hamas terrorist attacks occurred in October 23rd, 2023. At the very least, one hopes the BBC will conduct a thorough review of its reporters and its reports, and the postings on social media of every Arab journalist, whether on the permanent staff or a freelancer whose reports the BBC now relies upon. But will they promptly cease to have anything to do with those who exhibit the kind of murderous hatred of Ahmed Alagar and Samer Elazan and Ahmed Kwan? And once the Arab reports have been thoroughly vetted and those showing extreme anti-Israel bias have been discharged, the BBC should investigate its British members. I mentioned them above, if you remember, in the beginning of this post. Its British members of its staff who cover Israel and the Palestinian Arabs. To see about their anti-Israel biases. More heads should roll, and little by little, the BBC engaged in a necessary cleansing of its Orgian stables. What do you think? I would love to hear your comments, as I always ask you for your comments. Press that like button and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. It helps me to get along, to do my research and to check things out before I publish them. So subscribe, like, comment. Three items for you to do today. Please, please, please don't let me down. And until the next one, I'm going to do another one today, but until the next one, be safe, be good, and goodbye from DJ for now. Bye.